So, Ivana, thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad to hear you are back amongst the living after
Thank
after
you
uh,
so much.
after just getting wiped out by something. Is it? I'm assuming that moving and new locations and new jobs and everything, I'm sure stresses the body, anyways.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much you underestimate it even when you know about it.
Yeah.
But my critical breaking point was actually trying to finish my part-time master's degree while moving to a different continent and
Oh
then
man,
completely burning myself out.
I was gonna say you don't make it easy for yourself, do you? That's
No, I'm one of these people who just bites down on something and doesn't want to go, very stubborn.
so you're like
So
a scientific pit bull, basically. It's the
I mean, yeah. You got to have something like that to keep going in the scientific field, I think. Otherwise, it it overwhelms you a little bit too much.
Well, so let
I
people
think
know
we yeah.
who you are and what you do so we can dive into this. We can see just how obsessed you are with this wonderful stuff.
Oh goodness. So it would be great if I prepared any of this. However, I am not a preparer in this sense. But maybe a quick rundown. So I am Ivana. My name is Ivana. I'm originally from Croatia. I'm currently living in Japan in Okinawa. I am a physicist. My background is in quantum physics, but I have interests all across the board. So this wonderful part-time master's degree that I was mentioning was actually in political science because I developed an interest in innovation policy and how to implement all the wonderful scientific research we're doing in society. And I'm generally interested in a lot of things, and I'm a
That's
big
fantastic.
reader and consumer of information, I guess.
It it's yeah, it's I find it all consuming myself. I just there's not enough hours in the day to learn everything that's out there. I don't know how people figure out how to focus on anything, but that's
Yeah.
policy is really a smart one because that's
Mm.
I think it's something that scientists don't, they tend to sort of avoid that stuff when that actually has the most power to change stuff in the end of the,
Do, do you know what you hear a lot of these romantic notions of people starting as a career or studying science with this
mm,
idea of they want to create something or they want to do scientific research that's going to change the world. And somehow in between entering university and becoming a scientist, this kind of gets lost and you focus on the science itself and you don't think about
mm,
what it does in the world or what it does in the world after it leaves your lab in form of a scientific paper. It's like, I'm
mm,
done, my career is progressing, this is somebody else's problem and it will work out on its own. And
mm.
usually, like, if you look at statistics of how many people read scientific papers or even PhD theses, it's a handful usually on
Oh my
average.
God. I
So
don't know how people do. I mean, I think it's one of the things I love about AI now, actually, is the ability to
really.
summarize some of this
Mm,
stuff just for people like me who it's just to get that information. It's
yeah.
wonderful for me. I don't know how much of it is entirely accurate or not, but I usually get through the abstract and then go from there. That's my approach.
Yeah, I think statistically that's about as much as an average researcher gets from the time that they have to devote to the article. So I think it's very
Really? Oh my,
beneficial.
wow.
I
Okay.
mean,
Well,
the problem comes in the past couple of years when you have scientists writing their papers or whatever it is using AI,
mm,
and
mm,
then readers of those papers using AI to understand it. And in this kind of garbage in, garbage out
yeah,
situation, a
yeah.
lot of information could get lost. But we're probably en route in a couple of years to having a really useful set of tools, especially when it comes to, you're working on a particular piece of research. And this is the thing when you're working in a field, so like I'm in quantum or I was in quantum, I'm doing something slightly different now.
Yeah.
But you go into this field of research that is expanding extremely quickly and you have to kind of grasp everything that's going on in all these tangential topics all over the world and you're bound to forget something or miss something. And
Mhm.
for example, having AI tools that kind of help you figure out where you have gaps in bibliography,
Mm.
where you might be missing something, that's extremely helpful. And I wish this existed in this kind of a form back when I was starting my
Mm.
PhD. That would have been
Oh my
that would have been
gosh.
great.
Well, just in school in
It's
general.
changing things.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
wonderful. It's wonderful because even just I keep using this metaphor of we're trying to sip out of a fire hose of information. And and we need tools
Yeah.
now. We need tools to
Mm,
direct that and to sort that for us because we're
totally.
just squishy brains. There's not we don't have the capacity for a lot of this stuff. Like we're great when we can, when we get what we need, but the idea of trying to search the internet for every article that relates to something you're working on, I mean, It makes sense.
Have you ever seen this wonderful, I think, I hope you have. If you haven't, I'm gonna have to show it to you. But there, you know about the archive, the repository of articles. Physicists use it a lot. You
Mm-hmm.
publish your paper there before it goes to peer review, so it's very, very quick from
Yeah,
lab
yeah.
to readers.
What's it called? What is
They
the
so it's archive. So it's AR and then XIV because we
ah?
read the X as the Greek letter chi. So it's
Very good.
archive.
Nerds.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Got
super
it. Yeah.
clever.
Yeah.
So if you look at like yearly statistics, for example, I really liked doing this back when I started my PhD ages ago. Look at the yearly statistics of how many papers are published on the archive in quantum physics, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly you see that it is basically exponential at some
Right.
point.
Right.
There's absolutely no time that people who might have, not 50 years ago, but even 25 years ago, who would have started their day doing research, like actual, full-time researchers, scientists, start their day by looking at what's new in their field.
Mm.
They could do it in 15 minutes with a cup of coffee.
Right. Right.
Nowadays, it would have taken you about 5 hours,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't have been very productive. So yeah, absolutely. I think
I
there's a shift in science.
I remember that even just from the early days of personal computers, where you could read a
Oh.
couple of magazines and be up to date on everything there was to know about what was available. And now, of course, it's again, it's you this you have to focus even on specific areas now, and even then, there's
Yeah.
an abundance of information. So okay, so we met you originally, or I met you originally
Mm.
through the fabulous Agne, as always. Um,
Feels like that.
and you were working at Xanadu at the time. Um,
I was, yeah, it
yeah,
was a few months ago.
I know. Does it feel like a lifetime ago already?
Honestly, it does. I feel like this is a new life for me. I have moved continents. I don't know who I am anymore.
And what do you speak Japanese and stuff? I mean, you are you?
Oh God, I'm learning. I'm trying so hard. I have to admit, this is the only Zoom I've had in the past probably 4 months that is not a Japanese class.
Oh
I'm trying
wow.
so hard.
Oh okay. All right. And how are you finding picking it up? Because it's not an easy one to learn, right?
It's a struggle, and I have to admit, when you're in an academic environment and everybody around you speaks English, it's very easy to just go with the flow.
Yeah, true.
So
Right,
there's some
right.
hurdles along the way.
So,
Uh,
what were you doing at Xanadu exactly? What
So
we
yeah,
talked to
so as
Christian,
I do,
obviously. Had a great chat with Christian.
yeah, it was fantastic to talk to. I know, our lovely CEO. So I started at Xanadu. I was there for a few years, but I started there as in something that's called, or that was called at the time, the communication team, or to the community team, in fact.
Mhm.
And I thought that was so lovely because there was a group of about, I think at some point, 8 or even 9 of us,
Mm.
whose only role was to do whatever we wanted, because again, startup life,
Right, right.
to do whatever we wanted and we could to help the quantum computing community grow, to expand the network, to make sure that not only is Xanadu developing what would be useful for the quantum computing community, whether this is everything from students to software engineers
Mm,
to,
mhm.
I don't know, hardware developers, but then we were also taking what the needs of researchers are and like kind of pulling that in and making sure that the software we develop is helpful for that. And
Mm.
then we also did random stuff like creating learning materials where somebody can just go in and, oh, I'm interested in using quantum machine learning. How do I do this? Great, we have a guide for you. In half
I
an
did
hour,
it.
you can run
I
your
did
own
it.
code. You did
Yeah,
it.
I did. I
Oh,
did
I'm
the
so happy.
I did the Hello World, the first sort of
Oh
Hello World
yeah.
program, and I actually get this is how much of a nerd I am. They'd updated some of the Python libraries, so
Mm-mm.
I actually got in touch with whoever was running it and said,
No.
hey, you might want to let them know you got to change this for the yeah. I
Oh,
just
that's brilliant.
I
It must have
loved
felt
it.
really good.
It felt amazing, and also, but again, and I think that's the brilliance of what was happening there was that
Mm.
uh, as a result, when you go to see Xanadu AI, it
Yeah.
felt like a place, like it felt like a place I wanted to be. It was like there was a lot of information
Mm.
about, there was a lot of sort of sharing and a lot of sort of tools and yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful thing you were doing. I'd say it's
Oh,
amazing.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy to hear that. 'Cause, like, this is one of the things that happens. You're in this very new field, and you can see companies all around just kind of spitting out random educational materials. But a lot of
Mhm.
it is very like, what is a qubit? How do quantum
Yeah.
computers work? When that is not really. like that doesn't put you in the center of things, and being able to kind of do it on your own and with your own two hands, that
Well,
I
and
always
that's
love
it.
that feeling.
Yeah, it's a feel. It just again. I always feel like if you can. I call it like the Hollywood of science, where if you could do something that makes someone feel like I'm a quantum physicist, like
Yeah.
that's gonna attract kids, that's gonna attract students, that's gonna attract
Yeah.
people who might not have been in the field. Otherwise, I mean, like if I can do it, then a monkey with a chainsaw can do it. So,
How dare
I
you?
think it was, but again, but that's a testament to the stuff that was built on
Mm.
that site. It was just, yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, I loved it.
Oh,
That's
I'm so
great though. So the
glad.
community, and you basically just got to run free and do what you felt was going to make the world.
Well, like don't tell my former boss that that's my opinion, but I think we were living in a bit of a utopia, as as a merry band of renegades trying to do good in the world of quantum.
Mm.
And yeah, I think based on your feedback, we did some things good.
Oh, it's fantastic. No,
Um,
and the press. I mean, maybe this is maybe it's Toronto or Ontario centric, but I'm seeing a
mm,
lot of Xanadu shows up on a lot of things, and Nature magazine. They've had a couple of
yeah.
great
We had
pieces
a
on
recent
that as
paper.
well.
Yeah.
It's a really fun company. I did the tour, and it just the
Oh, I'm
people,
so glad to hear that.
everyone was so excited about it, and everyone
Oh,
was just it was and
yeah.
I'm blanking on his name now. The operations officer, the guy who took me around.
Raf.
Raf, that's it, Raf.
Yeah,
I knew he
Raf.
had a cool name. Ah, fantastic.
Oh,
That
brilliant.
guy. Oh my God, I could have talked to him forever. I just, yeah.
Yeah, it's there's some good vibes at Xanadu, I gotta
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
So I have, but I was kind of, I don't want to say I was on the sidelines because I wasn't. I always felt like I was part of the team, but I was working remotely for those few years from
Yeah.
Germany, and I still felt really, and the vibes of the company go beyond the office. So that
Hmm.
was nice.
It's
Everybody
Canada.
there
I'm
is
just
there for a
Canada helps
reason.
these things too. I mean, there's something to be said for, us Canadians.
Listen, they flew me out. I think it was November, and I
Oh,
was visiting Toronto in November, and I was like,
oh
I can't
God.
do this,
I'm
guys.
so sorry. Okay, that was their fatal flaw right there.
Yeah, they couldn't convince me to
November.
visit again.
No, you can't convince me to stay here, and I live here in November. Like it's oh God. Okay,
Yeah.
so Xanadu is now in the past, but
Oh,
Okinawa
they're still
Institute.
very much in the present, just not my
Yeah,
present.
yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean in your timeline.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Okinawa Institute in Japan. For those of us who don't know, could you let us maybe don't know what they're up to and what your part there
Yeah,
is?
yeah, for sure. So you'd be surprised, but I find that it's hit or miss. If people know about this institute, they
Mm.
are very impressed and very
Oh yeah.
excited.
Oh yeah.
And if they don't know, they don't, just like, it's a blank space in their brain. So it's this,
I didn't know
it's
about it
okay.
until I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh my God! Like this is,
It's really
you
cool,
know,
right?
even just to look at
Uh,
it, it's cool." Yeah.
yeah, no, there's even people that I've met in Japan who, we went to a conference, and one of these, we have a booth and we're talking about random things, and people would stop and ask, wait, I'm from there, but I haven't visited in a few years. I thought this was an AI generated photo. This is real, you mean? So the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, it's a really young,
Mm,
relatively speaking, like under 15 years old
mm,
research institution that also does PhD and up education
right, right,
for budding scientists.
right.
And I have had my eye on it for a while because it has this really, for me, really interesting approach to doing science, which is
Mm,
not, hey, let's rigidly divide our scientific fields into these nice categories. We have biology, chemistry,
mm, mm.
math, physics, whatever.
The pillars of
The
learning. Yeah,
pillars.
yeah. Oh, I
Yes,
hate the
and we
pillars.
are we are all in our little houses and our little drawers, and we're
Mm,
focusing on our work.
mm,
They have this really cool approach where the research groups are little units, and the goal is really to get as much interdisciplinary research going,
oh, nice. Oh,
cross-disciplinary,
great, great.
find good not ideas, but good opportunities for applications and implementations. So even if you're a PhD student there starting, your first couple of semesters, you're going to be going to one research unit, you're going to be
Right.
working in one specific field, then you're going to switch
Wow.
And then only in your third group will you be able to pick your PhD research topic.
Oh,
Because the idea is really, and you pick whatever you want. Like if somebody set me loose, I would be, spending 3 months pipetting something, then I would be learning about God knows what before I would land on, I don't know, something. So I really have had my eye on it for a while, and I was very, very lucky that a position opened up that I'm really excited about. In this division, they have OIST Innovation, and it's one of these classic knowledge transfer divisions, which means something to you. If you know what knowledge transfer is, means absolutely nothing to you. It's just buzzwords if you don't. But it's a group of people. It's kind of I guess a task force, I would say, probably
Nice.
at
Wow, yeah.
a research institution with the goal of helping, not just hand holding, but really helping and supporting and amplifying the
Mhm.
research that researchers are doing in the lab and making sure it goes into society. So from every step
Nice.
of the way, from we are working on basic science, we want to see if we can find a way to apply it, or maybe we have an idea but we don't know what to do with it, to
Hmm.
finding funding for that, finding support, finding a way for them to either maybe patent it or license it, or find somebody to start a company with them as the next step,
Oh, cool.
to yeah, to the point of actually getting the technology out into society, either running a company or providing services or licensing the research. And I have this role of technology development specialist,
I love
which
it.
means I get to be there and kind of escort research teams
Mm.
from the initial concept of, wait, maybe we can use this science to do something in the
Right,
world,
right.
through those years of development and actual implementation, and seeing it kind of go off into the world and be something magical. So I'm so excited. I've just started a few months ago, but it's been busy. It's been nice.
It sounds amazing though, because it's a perfect jumping, like, so Xanadu is a perfect jumping off point where you're dealing with how to gain interest and create communities around this
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
stuff, and now you get to sort of put that in
Yeah,
action. I think that's fantastic.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's a very multifaceted thing as well. On one hand, you have to kind of, because the world of research and academia is very different from, let's call it, industry and real world, and you have to
mhm.
make sure that you balance both ends. I hope nobody quotes me on this, but a few
You know
weeks
you're being
ago I talked
recorded,
to,
right? You're being recorded,
yeah,
right?
no, we're just dreaming. This person never hears about this, but a few
Right.
weeks ago I had this wonderful conversation with a darling researcher I adore, has a wonderful research project, trying to do something toward starting a company, and asks me, hey, I've heard about this, but I don't really know what it is. A non-compete, what is that?
Oh boy. Oh,
So this is the
but that
level
makes
of
sense. Why would you know that? Like, why would
exactly.
I'll have you know, in the film industry,
Yeah.
this is for an old dinosaur like me who's been doing this for so long. They've started having us sign NDAs. I didn't know what an NDA was for years. I didn't know what I mean. Why would you? I'm a freaking actor. I mean, unless I said it as a lawyer
Yeah.
in a show, I wouldn't know what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
and sometimes because like these kinds of research institutions that are looking for real world applications, they have to kind of justify that by, you know, walking backwards and saying, oh, hold on, maybe we need to take care of intellectual property, we need to
mhm.
patent these things. And then I have to go and tell researchers, I really know that you want to go to this conference, but can we have a little chat about NDAs first?
Right, right.
So
And
yeah,
how?
it's
I mean,
modern times.
do you have? Is there, like, I'm assuming this is kind of, is there legal background for you as well? Is there people who support that side of stuff, or?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So our division, OIST Innovation, we have everything under the sun that has anything to do with taking research out into the world. So everything from, the business development team to help us get in touch with every company under the sun that we could possibly want to talk to. We have the venture folks who are helping us take care of some funding issues
Yeah,
or
yeah.
expansions.
Mm.
And then the two biggest sections would be my team, which we are doing technology development, and my colleagues who are in technology licensing, who are people who
Wow.
have Juris Doctor backgrounds and take care of patenting and licensing intellectual property in general.
Wow.
So I am also very new to this, like, being inside of it as
Mm.
opposed to just looking at it from the outside. So I get to
Mm.
learn a lot from experts, and
Yeah,
it's
no
it's a it's
kidding.
a really different perspective trying to look at wait, science is one thing when you're doing it. Science is a completely another thing when you're trying to sell it to the real world and make sure that it actually gets used by people, real people. And then it's a completely third thing when you're looking at it from a legal, commercial perspective and trying to figure out what the value of research is. So
well, and that's why the whole diversity thing is so important, is having different perspectives on things. You've got all the same nerds in a lab trying to make a company out of it. You're going to have, all the same mistakes being made. Whereas if you've got a mix of people, like a community of people who can build around it, then you're obviously going to, it's going to a much better chance of flourishing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you got it, I think.
And how did this come about? Like, I wouldn't even know how you said you had an eye on the Okinawa Institute for a while. What, you literally just tracking the careers page, or what did you do? I mean,
oh hell yeah. Every couple of weeks, let's check it. Maybe there's something that matches.
Really?
And I was just very excited that I saw it, and I had to turn around and be, wait, did they write this for me? This seems
oh
nice.
My God, that's gotta feel so good. What?
It was here. I had my first interview with the manager of the team, and I ended the interview. I was like, this, there's gonna be 5 or 6 people I still am gonna have to talk to, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get this job offer. So
that's great.
It was a match. It was great.
And what about the? I mean, I know this isn't strictly science stuff, but you're moving. Where were you originally? Where are you now? I mean, what's for people?
Yeah. So I was in Germany. I was in Munich, where I moved at first to Munich because I wanted to start my PhD research in quantum physics, specifically quantum information, and like I said, I'm a very headstrong person. I bite down and then I don't let go. I picked one research group that was top of the field and I applied there and only there.
Oh, wow.
And by some dumb luck, I got the position.
Wow, I think and as it normally,
no, I think it's a game of numbers, and I just get lucky. But as it normally happens with researchers, you stick around where you start if you don't have any better plans. And I had no intention of doing a postdoc, so I stuck around in Munich. And then I made this silly little leap to the other side of the world, which is about 7 or 8 hours away. So my conversations with my friends are exclusively sharing memes on Instagram.
Right.
And nowadays, but yeah, this is also, I think, a really, really interesting part of being a full-time researcher, which I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of them right now. But for me, it's always such a surprising moment when you visit a very international research institution, and then you kind of turn around and you realize everybody here kind of dumps their entire life every 2 to 3 years to go somewhere completely different. Their physical possessions, their friends, their family, you need to really limit the way you live. But it also means that the community in these places is so vibrant. So I go here, and my first day here, there was a board game group that invited me to, hey, let's celebrate you moving here. Let's have a board game afternoon. And I was my mind was blown. And there's always something happening, because this is how you build a social circle when you're kind of bouncing around every so often. So.
And what's the locale like? I mean, have you got?
Man.
Yeah, I mean.
Do you know much about Okinawa, actually?
I other than looking at a map in preparation.
Yeah.
Not much. I mean, I saw a beautiful ocean. There's a beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and a beach and it looks amazing.
I think probably in your neck of the woods, people would call it the Hawaii of Japan.
Ooh,
I've heard this more than once.
I like the sound of that.
It's one of these places. It's so far south from, people here call it mainland Japan. Japan is islands. I don't know where the mainland comes in, but it is so far that it's actually closer to Taiwan than it is to the mainland of Japan.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's so far from everything. You're thinking of Japan, you're not thinking of Okinawa. There's no train system here.
What?
Public there's one monorail in one town and all the way in the south, and that's it.
Really?
Everybody drives a car. You can't get anywhere without a car.
Are you driving? You got a car?
Yeah, I went to the driver's license center last Friday to get my license. So I have a Japanese driver's license now.
And are they driving on the left? Are they driving on the right?
Left.
The left.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had to mentally do the swap. I was terrified. This was my first time switching to the wrong side of the street.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you say it that way. Yeah.
But but the key here is because everybody has to drive, not everybody's a good driver.
Right.
So
Right.
everybody is bad on the road, and this is just
Mm.
kind of what you adapt. I met somebody from here who his father was, he says his father was a police officer here before he retired. And when his father was teaching him how to drive, he said there's, a couple of rules. You need to make sure that you drive as if everybody around you is an idiot because everybody drives like an idiot.
Ah,
And also, if you don't want to make everybody around you angry, you should drive around 20 kilometers over the speed limit.
right. Okay, great.
So those are the vibes.
And
This is a very like
that's the
remote.
police advice. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I tried for like a day and a half driving the speed limit, and I had
Yeah.
such a traffic jam behind me. Gave up
I
very
would do
quickly.
terribly because I don't just play a coward on television. I drive to the letter of the law. Check shoulders. It drives my wife and my child crazy. So my wife does all the driving. Like, yeah, I drive
No,
like an old lady.
no, I get you 100%, and me too. And I am so like I am a stickler to the rules. I will
Yeah.
find gaps in the rules, but
Yeah.
I stick to the rules.
Yeah, yeah,
And
likewise.
then here it just doesn't work, and I'm already thinking, oh, I'm gonna visit Germany that has very strict laws and very structured systems, and I'm just
Mm.
gonna get a ticket in the first 3 seconds.
Oh yeah, that's that. Well, that's my wife. My wife just basically functions
Eh.
on the whole, and all of a sudden her English accent becomes very strong, and she sounds suddenly like a tourist who just didn't know what was going on.
Oh,
Oh, kilometers! Yeah. So she's good at that.
I'm
Uh,
not gonna say anything, but I have pulled that. I've pulled
yeah,
that card for sure.
I mean, I just wouldn't. I just hadn't thought of it. I wish I was better at accents. Okay,
Yeah, you need to work on that, I
I
feel.
really do. It's true. It's true. What about give us an idea of a day there for you then? So
Hmm.
like what does it look like when you go to work? Is it a lot of computer stuff? Is it a lot of talking to people? What's what are you doing?
I mean, I think it's so I've been here for about 3 months in this job, and it's gonna sound so cliche, but every day is bloody different.
Oh,
There's
great.
no
Okay.
really, and it's always, I came here at the time when it was a very exciting time when we were evaluating a new batch of applications for a funding program for the
Mm.
proof of concept.
Oh,
So
wow.
researchers get an idea, we want to help support them to actually implement it. We need to make sure that we pick the ones that we believe in and that
Mm,
actually are thought through to the point where we think that not only is this a great scientific idea, but also it has market potential. Also, the applicant has a great team and resources, and also they've thought about what customers or what service or product, what this is going to be in the future,
mm,
4 years down the line. So we had this wonderful moment where I kind of had to dive in within a couple of weeks into 15 different fields of science to understand, everything from medical applications to quantum hardware and to
wow.
be able to evaluate these things. So, some parts of my work have been you sit down and you really need to understand the technology and understand the market and find the right experts to talk to
Mm,
give you the feedback that you need. Some of them have been kind of sitting down with researchers and brainstorming, okay, so this didn't work. What could we do that could potentially be good and that it's still, feasible,
mm,
and trying to work with what we have and what we expect, and then some parts of it are trying to get in touch with companies or other research institutions to build collaborations or
mm, mm.
partnerships or some sort of research agreements that we need to push forward.
That's so
So a
nice
lot
though.
of
So
everything.
every day is different. I mean, that's kind of what you want to hear. I mean, that's because
Yeah.
so many
Yeah, it
people,
is.
well, there's so many people you talk to who are in, specific sciences who a lot of it is sitting
Mhm.
you have to sit at a computer. It's amazing stuff that they're doing, but the day-to-day work is a lot of just, number crunching and stuff.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, dude, like my research, I was in theoretical physics, but the kind of theoretical physics that you do with pen on paper, I did
right,
integrals, a lot of
right,
integrals,
right.
also numerics, but like for a solid year and a half, it was me and a piece of paper, and I could have blown my brains out after a while. This
Really?
is yeah, it's great. It's incredibly fulfilling and fun.
Mm,
But if this is your entire life, and this was like COVID times for me, COVID has started, and I didn't even
mm,
have seminars to attend or anything.
mm.
I was one of these people who had to take a break from my research because
Yeah.
it's so I like the aspect of I really admire people who can just hunker down and do 0 to 3 years and get done with it. But I also think that there's more to it than putting on blinders and focusing. And there's a huge value in understanding what lies beyond your like immediate, even immediate peripheral vision. You need to, I think, to really enjoy like the fruits of your labor, to really feel fulfillment from the work you do, you should have some awareness of what it means for the world that you're doing that. If you are passionate, if you want to be passionate about your work, which not everybody is, not everybody has to be, and that's totally fine. But reality is, if you're a scientist, you're not doing it because you want to make a lot of money. You're not making a lot of money.
Right,
you're not doing it for life stability. You don't have life stability. You're doing it for the love of the work. And I think a lot of scientists, and I say this with as much kindness as I can muster, but a lot of scientists probably are missing out on this whole new dimension of understanding what the value of their work is, because they are so laser focused on something that is so difficult and that only they can do. So
Well,
this is my armchair psychology.
No, I think that's great, because I think it's a really good point. I think it's difficult for a lot of scientists because they do become sort of introvert in their work, and they become or insular, and that they've got their specific group of people who talk about the same, the same specifics of minutia of whatever they're doing. And I think there is a risk to that. I mean, I think, yeah.
But I mean, do you
conferences
feel?
too, right?
But that's also, conference. Okay, I was gonna ask you, do you feel kind of in your professional field, do you also start feeling insular in some points and
I avoid
get to
actors.
that point?
I basically avoid actors because I don't want to talk about
Huh.
what's there to talk about. You pretend to be other people and dress up. I no I like this is
Dressing up sounds nice.
Oh yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. It's like, yeah, like I'm not gonna say it's a wonderful job.
Yeah,
I
don't
love
bash on your job. Hold on.
Yeah, I love acting. I just hate being an actor. The surrounding stuff. So that's why I'm drawn to the science stuff, because I think we touched on pillars the other day, earlier. It's one of my pet peeves, is that because people saw that I was acting, and all of the sciences got, well, so you don't need that. You don't need to do well in that stuff. And I didn't do well in that stuff. And but at the same time, I had all that interest. I just wish there was a way that there was to sort of, well, and I have now been able on my own to combine the two. But just as a kid, I see kids being sort of like cordoned off into specific areas, like, oh, you're in the sciences or you're in the
Yeah.
arts. I was like, no, 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 no. There's arts to science and science to art, and this is what I love about what you're doing, is that it seems to be mixing, and mixing in
Mm-hmm.
politics as well. Wow, I mean, you got it all covered.
I mean, partially that's a hobby,
Right.
but I
A
think
necessary
my
one.
personal, yeah. So this is really the thing. My personal hobby is trying to understand. Wait, what is the point of this? Why are we doing it? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I wouldn't really say that it's necessary for everybody at all times to understand exactly what's going on and how, but I think there's a certain kind of joy that you can experience if you understand the purpose and how the
Mm-hmm.
wheels turn in the world
Mm-hmm.
in some cases.
Well, and we
And
know
like
in life
this
that
is selfish.
if you do something in life, there are consequences. I mean, you need to sort of
Mm.
bring that same kind of approach to science as well. I mean, because obviously you could make some terrible decisions without thinking about the consequence. And I think,
Oh God,
I mean,
yes.
are ethics something? I mean, I'm assuming ethics come up as
Mm.
well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
are there, I mean, since you've been in the quantum world, are there ethical concerns with
Mm.
quantum computing?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So I was very lucky that while I was in Germany, there's this excellent community in Europe that's focusing on the responsibility factors of quantum technology development.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like a pig in mud attending workshops and learning about
It's a very polite way of
responsibility.
saying it. Very polite way of saying it. Very good.
Thank you. I do my
Yeah.
best. I think it's fairly accurate. I felt
Yeah.
really content about being able to experience that, because there are so many aspects to quantum technologies that are potentially contentious. So
Mm-hmm.
quantum technologies are what we would call, again, not everybody would agree, I think, but this is something that is a general purpose technology.
Mm-hmm.
This, the development of quantum computers, regardless in which direction it goes, is quite likely to jumpstart whole new types of things we can do that we cannot do right now. So it's not going to be it's not going to be a specific application. It's going to be means to an end and means to all kinds of these different things. So general purpose. And one of the things about general purpose technology is that we don't know at the start what it's going to enable. It might be great things, it might be not so great things. And this is kind of what we're dealing with, especially when we're talking about, how do we feel about science fiction futures, for example? Are we optimistic? Are we pessimistic? We have to be somewhere in the middle, and we have to consider all of them. But one thing where it's a very clear view of responsibility is that quantum technologies have the potential to be used for nefarious means.
Right.
They have always this underlying, are we going to be using quantum computers 15 months from now or 2 years ago to break secure cryptography that we are not aware of yet? There's these wonderful quantum algorithms that kind of let you, if you imagine a scenario where I think I might have mentioned this too, but I love this concept so much because it's not a very straightforward thought to have when you talk to people who are not in the field. Like if you imagine having a satellite, hypothetically, we are living in the future. Everything is wonderful. The flowers are blooming off the walls. We have a satellite that carries a quantum computer. It's in orbit. We can communicate with it. We shoot a laser from Earth. It shoots a laser back to us. Great. We tell it, dear quantum computer, calculate something for me. Here's the input. Run this program, run this algorithm. Our dear quantum computer runs the algorithm, sends us back. We can encrypt the data that we send. We can get the data that is sent back encrypted to us. And because it's quantum, because of the nature of reality and the so-called no cloning theorem, there is no way for the data to actually be intercepted without us knowing that it was intercepted, which is wonderful.
Right. Like the state changes as soon as the collapse.
As soon as you measure it, it collapses. That's correct.
Right. Okay.
So there's really, even if there is any eavesdropper, Eve, in the middle of Alice and Bob, as we call it, you would know about it and you would be forewarned and you wouldn't be doing any random crap. You would figure out what's going on, but also they wouldn't get any useful information. But there's also a way, on top of encrypting the input and the output, to encrypt the actual algorithm that the computer is running. So if you imagine this wonderful future in which we have this technology, and let's say we have a company that's providing the use of this technology, we would have absolutely no way of controlling what kind of calculations are being run. And it could be anything under the sun.
Oh, wow.
So this is like one very sanitized example of, hold on, this could be dangerous in very real ways. But then you also have to think about, we are trying to, everybody who's in this field right now, or I would say time is moving forward, but I would say about at least 3/4 of the people who are in the field of quantum computing right now were in the field of quantum computing before it was promising.
Right.
We were here when everybody was telling us this is going nowhere, you're wasting your life.
Yeah.
And we had to come to the stage of trying to suddenly, oh, wait, this is working? We need to tell people about it. We need to explain this. And of course, you have these questions of, wait, who's going to have access to this? Who's going to have access to the skills, to the knowledge? So this is one of the things I loved, or I still love, about Xanadu and their quantum computing library, Penny Lane, having these resources available where anybody can pick up and go. So I spent a lot of my time at Xanadu enjoying the fact that you don't have to have a degree in a particular science at this point to get into this field. It's not about having a credential. It's about being able to do something and having the interest to develop the skill sets. And we are still at the stage where anybody can really just fly in and learn and make a huge difference. And kind of trying to balance the ethics and responsibility in teaching and giving access. And these are all topics that kind of as a community we need to be figuring out. On top of all of the, public security, national defense, and those kinds of things.
Financial institutions and the whole, I mean, there's definitely things there. It's funny, it reminds me a little bit of the early days of computing, where
Yeah.
it went from these sort of, you had to go and sort of pray at the altar of the acolytes that controlled the big systems, and they understood the words, and you just, you came and you gave them the stuff, and out came a result, to this point
Were
where
you not one of the punch card guys?
I was a punch
You
card
just
guy.
gave
Yeah.
so
I
you
was a
did do it
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, no,
Nice.
my computer science, I'm sorry, people, I know I've told this story before, but my computer science class, which I quit because I was like, this is boring, was coding on an old system that used the punch cards. But
Yeah.
in the room they had a little Mac computer, which I
Mm.
loved and played with and got into basic, but that wasn't the work. So I was failing because I
Mhm.
wasn't good at this, but I was loving, and I would go home and play with my Commodore 64. I didn't see I didn't equate the two because institutions didn't equate the two, right?
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
toy. This was a real computer, you know? And I just, I feel like I see that with the quantum computing stuff now, where I see that there's
Mm.
a lot of jargon around it. There's
Mhm.
a lot of difficult things for people to get their head around. And as a result, you get either ridiculous excitement that may or may not make sense, or you get this fear of something
Yeah.
unknown of it all, right? It's
I mean,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, but and in parts, it's justified, both ends. You
Hmm.
need to acknowledge both of them. There's something there, and the only thing that really differentiates between running blindly into a future of God knows what and being prepared for whatever is going to come is trying to talk about it and trying to
Hmm.
figure out where we stand, what we can gain, what we can lose, and working together. And that is really the making those connections and actually working together is really what is likely to lead us to a good future. Because I think I think you might have talked to Christian from Xanadu about this already,
Yeah, yeah.
but the unique part and the part that I find so exciting about quantum computing is that when you say quantum computing, it doesn't mean a specific implementation of it. Quantum computing just means doing computer things using quantum physics.
Right.
How you want to do the quantum physics? Anybody's guess. So there's
Hmm.
like all these different approaches from, photonic
Hmm.
applications like Xanadu does,
Yeah.
semiconductors, neutral atoms, ions, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And the kicker here is that we have no idea we have some idea, but we don't actually know which one of these technologies is actually going to hit gold. Which one
Hmm.
of them is going to be able to scale up and actually give us what people now are calling useful quantum
Right.
computing.
Right.
And
It's never a good sign when you have to
whatever
put
that means.
useful in front of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, it's an actual term people are using
No, it
nowadays. They're
makes
being
sense. I
serious.
just, yeah, yeah.
You have to somehow define it. But once that happens, chances are everybody's gonna just drop their luggage and
Mm-hmm.
sprint in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna have this nice thing that you could have seen back in the day of VHS and Betamax, where one of them inch forward and the other one is in the dust. Well, I mean, both of
Mm-hmm.
them are in the dust nowadays, but the way technology
Yeah, but beta
develops.
was better. Beta had better
Yes,
quality. It was better
that's the
quality.
whole point.
What drove me
But
crazy about it.
it was late. It was
Yeah,
late. It was just late on the scene.
yeah.
So likely what's gonna happen is we're gonna go down this one, but there's this thing called path dependency. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna go on one path and there's no way to really backtrack.
Mm-hmm.
So all
Well, it's
these
happening with
efforts
AI
that
too, isn't it? The same thing right now,
is
where
it? In what
well,
sense?
we're all about the neural networks, right? We're
True, yeah.
everyone's taking these this sort of specific approach to it, when the reality is that there's probably better suited to mix the way we're doing it as
Mm-mm-mm.
well. In fact, it's probably already happening, but the buzzwords are the ones that people will, and the funding will go to. That's interesting because that comes down to your policy stuff as well, right?
Mm,
if
yeah.
if you have government bodies or organizations that want to give money, and the only stuff they understand is the stuff they're seeing in the press, then that's going to get funding over stuff that might be the beta of the
and,
future.
and it's not just that it goes in a circle. You're going to see funding agencies kind of react to things that they see in the press, but not because they think it's good. It's because if they then support those things, that's going to lead to a very good public response.
Right, right, right.
So it's
Yeah.
this monster that feeds itself, and it's one of the when you see government organizations, they usually have advisors in these fields try to kind of write really concise briefs so they can get to the point and really drive it home that this is important, this isn't, for reasons. And it's such a hard job to do when you have politicians in these roles that are responding actually to societal buzzword bingo vibes.
So we're not.
It's a C, yeah.
So we're not. It's not like we're not looking at like there's PCs, Macs, and quantum computers. We're still quantum computing is basically the entire.
Oh,
It could be basically any number or combination of things that are making it a quantum computer.
I think so. So I think there's also this thing where people are kind of trying to figure out what a hybrid quantum classical computer would be. So, which aspects of a quantum computer do you combine with a classical one to get something useful in the next X amount of years? Well, where X is hopefully one digit number. And trying to find these low-hanging fruits that you can do by doing that, because in reality, getting to a point where you have a standalone quantum computer that can, I tell it, calculate whatever, find me a specific molecule that does this and that, and it runs for 15 minutes, and I have a molecule. That's still in the future. However, I used to attend this wonderful conference in quantum information back when I was doing research in Benasque in Spain. And this was a conference that happened every 2 years. It was really nice because it was one of these unconferences where people just hung out for a couple of weeks without a schedule. You would just show up, you say, I want to discuss this today, or I feel like working on that.
Oh man, that is so quantum. It's so quantum.
It's so good. I miss it so much because
they don't do it anymore.
They do, but I'm not in research anymore. So I can't really afford to just take 2 weeks and chill out in Spain, in Spanish mountains.
Okay. Wow.
But this wonderful thing would happen where, like, for the next 2 years, you would just monitor and see all the seminal papers that came out of these conversations that are so relaxed. But I remember at this conference, every single time when we would be closing up, and it's the last discussion, and people are trying to figure out, okay, what do we think the timeline is for quantum computing? And for the past, I think for the past 20 years, up until very recently, quantum computing has been 20 years away.
Yeah. It's always 20 because that's just enough.
Yeah. But now the numbers are different. I think, I mean, looking at all the money that's been flowing into the field for the past 5-6 years, it's insane. Yeah. And it's not just private money. It's countries trying to put their horses in the race, and it's insane amounts. It's truly staggering. And then you're going,
Canada's in it. I mean, Ontario, Canada. We're in it.
I'm not telling it to stop. But
yeah.
But it's and then you have these situations where, for me, it was very interesting because I was living in the EU, where you can see that the EU is throwing money into this, but then individual countries within the EU are also throwing money into it and kind of trying to compete, because they know this. The first one on the scene is probably going to start the trend, and everything else is kind of going to fall off to the wayside. So
so if it's not photonics, then the photonics companies are going to not take a loss, but have a harder time getting stuff going. And
you have a harder time for sure. Yeah.
There was a lot of pushback on Microsoft stuff, wasn't there? Microsoft made some claims.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of.
So it's controversial. I think I developed my interest in quantum computing because I found the mathematics behind the topological quantum computing, the approach that Microsoft has been taking. I found the mathematics of it just, I don't know, beautiful. I thought it was so clever and so wonderful from the theoretical end of things. So I'm biased.
Is there any way to sort of explain that to this brain? I mean, is there what's behind that?
Right. So I think there's simple aspects of it that can be explained. So I'm not going to go deep into the structure of the quantum computers of this particular implementation. However, there's this big problem that quantum physics suffers from, which is, in order to see quantum aspects of the world, you have to go small and you have to go low energy, for these things to actually dominate over the classical, these macroscopic events.
Right, right.
And
where is that
macroscopic behavior.
cutoff? That's Lisa
Oh,
Werner's thing. Yeah,
it's tiny. And you might have heard about this thing where, it has to be in a black box of some sort, because if we shine a light or if something happens, then it's all gonna collapse because it's too much energy, it's too much whatever. We need to be so delicate and careful with it. That's great. We do in a lot of cases, and you've also heard, it has to be really low temperature in some implementations, some not so low. And it's so delicate and fiddly. And there are mathematical devices that tell us that might not be the case in all implementations. So there is a particular kind of mathematics that deals with topology, I guess. And there is a kind of, there's indications that such materials may exist that exhibit topological properties that we can use for quantum physics. Essentially, you can kind of have a material that, I hope nobody sends me to jail for oversimplifying this.
No, there's no quantum prison. It's okay. Yeah.
Oof, I sure hope so. But there's a way to have a material that essentially, between its lowest energy state and the first excited state, so the first where something happens that is not, there's a gap, which means you have to, if the energy that kind of flows into your black box, for example, if it's lower than the gap, it's not going to mess up the state. It has to click it over. So this is one very basic explanation of one very basic
so it just gives you a buffer basically
that
allows it to get rid of the noise that other things would be affected by.
Yeah, and there's other ways of looking at this, and there's other aspects of topological quantum computing. But one way of looking at it is that, and another way of looking at it is, have you ever heard about this is so stupid, but have you ever heard about the joke of the mathematician who broke his teeth?
No.
Because he mistook his mug for a donut.
All right. Because of the shape. All right. Because it's actually the same shape.
It's the same shape topologically. It has one hole.
That's good. Okay.
So there's this way to kind of mathematically find a function that maps a certain quantum state to the mathematics of topology, where you can imagine that if you have a torus, which is a donut, you can kind of, if you say, I have a torus and this is actually the surface of it is a material, it's a two-dimensional material in this particular example, that has some sort of mesh on it, like a network. And on each vertex of this network, there's a particle of some sort. And you can, let's say the particle has an up state and a down state, and you go around a circle here and you flip all of these from the down state to the up state, and then you walk away and you just have a ring of up state and everything else is in the down state. And this is information encoded in the ring, because the only way to break it is to go around the ring and break it. Because if you, for example, if you're in the ring here and you just do I lift this one and I lift this one and I lift this one, and you can kind of go in a circle and you can, this is so bad explaining in the air, but you can kind of make it smaller and smaller and smaller, and it goes like this. But if it's around the donut, then it's stuck here. There's no way for it to on its own, by slow movements, by smooth movements, to get into a point. It has to go all the way around.
The shape of it that's allowing it to retain or to resist.
Not the physical shape, shape, which is why I'm hesitating.
Damn,
but there's
that'd
a way
be too simple. That'd be too simple. Yeah.
Basically, there's this really cool things where you can kind of use, because the mathematics for this can be mapped to the mathematics for quantum states in this case. So there's a way to kind of this is the part that I love the mathematics of it, because you can map it like this. And this is what I mean when I say everybody in this field kind of started from, this is fun, this is nice, but it has zero applications, this is never going to be anything.
Right.
Because it really is rooted in these basic concepts of physics and theoretical physics, that people are then trying to, okay, wait, this is cool. how can we make this work and
Mm,
something physical?
mm.
So,
Well, and a great
so
example
yeah.
of why we need to fund pure research, because you just don't know you don't know what you're going to get out of it. You don't know
Mhm.
what value these things could do until you can do them.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually this is part of a very long discussion, of like a very long discussion in the field of policy,
Mm,
which is okay, is it sufficient for there to be a market need? Will this lead to kind of, trickle down to researchers deciding that they're going to work on this because potentially this is very interesting?
mm,
Or do we actually need to fund the basic science? Is the
mm,
basic science then just, do we have a balance in this and this works?
mm,
Or is the basic science maybe the thing that leads to market need, that leads to the
mm.
ideas of what can be done? So I think there's a balance in all things, but I think personally, based on what I know, based on the research I've read, based on the things we've seen out in the world, that without the fundamental science, we would never stumble upon these
Right,
kinds of things, and
right.
nobody would take these ideas and blow them up, and there wouldn't be a 57th person who looks at this and has this creative approach that inspires somebody else
Mm.
to take it a step further and
You
actually
don't go
lead
exploring,
something
you're not
cool.
going to find anything. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Um,
This is funny, but I saw a paper like like 3 weeks ago where somebody took a look at the medical field grants in the UK, and the whole conclusion of the paper is that, oh yeah, so the fields that get grant money actually publish more papers. Like this
wow,
is so
how
innovative
weird.
research. Give me money and I'll work. You don't
Yeah.
say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, and also, and again, it's not even like it's not like it's greedy scientists. It's just that this stuff takes money. I mean, it's the and
it
resources to be
does.
able to do this stuff. What?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't mean to sort of like I don't want to trap you in the world of quantum, but can you? I've got a two-part question.
The
What?
quantum jail, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's quantum jail, exactly. Uh, what are you most, what is sort of your most excited, like happy outlook on the quantum stuff, the best uses for it, and then also perhaps the other side as well. What worries you about it?
Hmm.
If you
Okay,
had to
so
do that.
okay, the thing that worries me immediately is this was part of the zeitgeist a few years ago, but I think it's still in the back of my mind. The so-called quantum winter, which
Mm,
is we are overhyping this damn thing, and if we don't deliver, it's gonna crash and burn, and we're never gonna be able to get it off the
mm.
ground,
Well, it
and
happened
this
to
would be an
AI, didn't
absolute
it? I mean,
tragedy.
we had a
Sort of, yeah.
long AI winter for a while there because we had
Mm-hmm.
useless bots that didn't do anything that anyone was excited about. Yeah. Okay, so you're
I
worried
mean,
that the
or did really
overhype,
bad things.
or it did well, yeah, that's true, yeah. So you're worried that the tech bros are gonna overhype this stuff and they're not gonna deliver, and then
Not quite that negatively, but I'm concerned that we're just not gonna get far enough in the development of the technology to really justify the resources that are being put into
right.
it. So you've spoken to people who are in this field, and they will tell you, oh, I don't know, in 2020 whatever 7 or 8, we are going to have 1 million qubits or whatever,
Mm, mm.
and say it enough times and it becomes an expectation, and
Oh
if you
yeah.
don't match it, it just leads to disappointment.
Mm,
It leads
mm.
to people saying, you know what, this didn't work, let's find something else, let's find.
And we
So
never learn because it's not like we haven't been through this every single time there's a new technology. There's the hype cycle is always like way up here, then there's a crash, then there's a reality,
yeah,
and then you can sort of
yeah,
have a
yeah.
legacy to it.
But sometimes it also takes some time. Like, I'm not saying please stop funding quantum, we need more time to
Mm,
develop, that's not what I'm saying. But there's examples in recent past, like, thinking about fusion. How
mm,
are we funding this? What's happening in this field?
mm.
So
Or crypto,
yeah,
like
this
crypto,
is
like
or
crypto.
crypto.
Crypto is a perfect example because the blockchain is actually a
Yeah,
really useful, interesting
it's
technology, but
yeah.
it's now equated with these with stupid
Mm-mm.
monkey NFTs, right? I mean, that's the like they couldn't have done
Yeah,
themselves a bigger disservice than that.
But there's still money flowing into that, so it's
I
fine.
know. Yeah,
It's
it's
still
true. That's
okay.
true. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's a president who seems to be a big fan of it now. So,
Yeah, we're just lauded up pretending it's fictional.
oh my God, yes. Anyways,
I,
okay,
I I'm
so
I'm happy I'm not on your continent, is what I was
that's
trying to say.
well, I mean, I'm in this weird world where I have a British passport, American passport, and a Canadian passport.
Wait, you
So
have three
I have
passports.
three passports. So
Dude,
yeah,
that's more than hands. What do you
I
do
can
with
pick it.
them?
I know, and I've only got one, and I speak one language. It seems shameful, doesn't it? Like I feel like I should
It's
at
such
least
a
have a
good
couple
point.
of. I'm like born identity with none of the ability to fight or talk in different languages. It's useless.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
but
One more vote for the accent work then.
that's it. Well, and I'm thinking about. Apparently, I can apply for my Irish passport. I'm like, let's do it. That's an EU country, right? So
At some point, it's Pokemon. You
yeah,
collect
I
them, yeah.
want. It's
I,
Pokemon.
I, I have two. I have Croatian and German, and if I
Hmm.
could get another one to have a full nice set, I would.
Yeah,
That
but
sounds
what was it?
exciting.
But Croatia, you've got wisdom, but those are both EU countries, right?
Yeah, which is why I didn't have to give up my Croatian citizenship to get German.
See, we don't have
There you
to.
go.
They got rid of the need to get. UK used to only be able to have a UK passport, and Canada
Mm.
has always allowed, or certainly in my lifetime has allowed more than one. And then America
Mm.
recently changed it so that you're allowed to have other ones, or maybe they just don't want to know if
Are
you've got other ones. I don't
are
know.
you sure this?
Not sure.
Yeah,
I hope so.
no, 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 not like that. But I have a friend who I think like 10 years ago, essentially took Canadian citizenship and gave away her Chinese one in order to get
Ah,
it.
China doesn't allow
So
you to have two. Yeah.
certain, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
China doesn't
China's
allow.
problem.
Yeah, and I have a feeling I wouldn't be surprised
Gotcha.
if America goes back to that as well. But anyway, okay, so we've talked about your
Yeah,
fear, which I've got to
yeah,
say
yeah, yeah.
is was a refreshing surprise for me because I thought we were
Really?
gonna. No, I think that's a really good point that does not get brought up enough. Is that
Mm.
if you truly love the science behind this stuff, you're concerned. You are going to be worried if people are making claims that they can't live up to, or that they're risk not being able to live
Mm.
up to.
And you might think that's a little bit blind because there are other, there are potential downsides to this, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a techno optimist. I
yeah,
think that
yeah. Me too. Techno optimist.
nothing
Yeah.
nothing nothing in the world is really going to stop us from expanding our knowledge and developing technology and developing our understanding of the universe. It's just going to delay it, and the more something is delayed, the worse we can react to it. We need
Mm.
to think about it proactively. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and also, and again, education's a big part of that because if people don't know,
Mm,
if they don't know that they're being overhyped because they don't understand the technology, this is where your community stuff comes in. The more people understand about stuff, the more likely they'll be able to
yeah.
make, informed decisions. Okay, so we've done doom
Yes.
and gloom. Let's go
Doom and gloom.
butterflies and happiness. What do you see what's in your magical fuzzy future? What do you see from a quantum standpoint as something exciting? Quantum computing standpoint, you see exciting.
Quantum computing standpoint. So there's a lot. There's a lot that's coming up, and I would say, in 20 years,
Oh, of
we're gonna have some
course. Very good. Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that I am very excited about. But honestly, for me, the moment when I mentioned these low-hanging fruits,
Mm,
the moment we can hit one of them and make a difference,
mm,
I'm going to be over the moon because this is kind of what we've all been working for. So
mm,
this is I find this to be an extremely, it's a very challenging field, but I think quantum chemistry is probably where we're going to land in these
mm.
first applications.
Interesting.
Because there's this benefit you get when you are working, when you're trying to figure out something, when you're working with a physical system that is quantum in nature, which
Mm.
when you're doing chemistry, there's small things with low energy. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
quantum, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, when you're trying to kind of simulate these things and figure out various properties of them, like, whoa, where does this go and what kind of energy does it have and how does it work?
Mm,
When you're working with a classical computer, as in a computer, as
mm,
we know nowadays, it's a different approach that you have to take. You have to cut a lot of corners. You have
mm,
to approximate a lot of things.
mm,
And if you can find a way to approximate as little as possible, streamline it as much as possible, and try to kind of get as accurate as possible of a representation, not exactly one-to-one, but if you're trying to describe a quantum thing with a quantum system,
mm.
it's going to be so much easier, and the ceiling for where we can go with that is a lot higher. But I think probably, and I think a lot of research groups and companies would agree with me here. We're going to land somewhere trying to, or we're going to figure out a specific material that's going to revolutionize batteries, or we're going to figure out a particular compound that's going to find a use in medicine, and suddenly it's going to be, hold on, this works. And that's what I'm waiting for, because it really is the case that we've been, since we developed computing devices, all we've done throughout human history has been approximating macroscopic measurements that we've been doing since the time when we developed the first ways of measuring time. We were just approximating things. We were, and to the point where we developed classical computers, we're still, when we do simulations, because you just cannot, let's say you're simulating the behavior of a galaxy, you're not going to be simulating the behavior of every single star in that galaxy. You're going to find mathematical methods to streamline simple.
Like the jaggies, the little jaggies.
Yeah. And you have to do that because you're looking at big things. You're trying to get statistics out of it. But the more we're understanding the laws of nature, the smaller we're getting, the more like we're looking at we're trying to figure out what the individual laws of every single piece of reality are. And when you get to that point, you can't keep approximating. You need to have a one-to-one representation of reality. So I'm not saying that this is exactly what we're going to get with the upcoming quantum computing future, but I think this is where we want to get, because that's where the key really lies to us being able to not just understand nature, but then kind of try to figure out ways to create things that we wouldn't have come up with on our own, maybe not in a million billion years. So yeah, that's the optimistic part. But
I love the chemistry angle. I mean, I think you're seeing that also with AI as well, right? Where AI is, whenever it could have discovered something, they tout look, it's been like protein folding, perfect example. That's something that people can understand. It's creating new ways of helping us with medical things. Yeah, as soon as quantum computing is doing that, I was quite excited about what Xanadu was doing, because I love the idea. It was this modular system where they can adding things to it. Okay, well, fantastic. Okay, so we've got the good and the bad. Now I'm gonna release you from, this is your get out of quantum jail free card, because that's not what you're doing now. What do you? Let's do the same thing. What are you excited about? You're looking at different projects to fund at the Okinawa Institute. What kind of stuff are you seeing? What do you, OIST? Is that what you call it, OIST?
Yeah, it's so silly, because I hate this, but people here call each other, sometimes some people, and it gives me the heebie-jeebies every time, oysters.
Oh, yeah, that's not.
Yeah, no, not a thing.
It's kind of creepy. Like, yeah, it's that. But okay, yeah, I can see it catching on, but yeah, because anyway, but you were saying you were sitting there going through a bunch of different funding applications. Are you? What are you? I mean, is everyone like no? Ooh, like, what's the?
The tragic thing is, I have sat there and I've thought, oh, this is so cool. Oh, I want to see this, and this would be like amazing. But then having to kind of sit down and be, wait, I don't think anybody would buy this. I don't think this is doable in the next 3 years. So you kind of have to you have to kind of set aside the things that you're excited about for a moment, and also think about, does this have a future, dirty word, but commercially? Because
Why 3 years? That's what they'd be given funding
no,
for,
I just off the top of my head. It's flexible, but you have to have some sort of, you have to have a view of the future, that you have to know, okay, I hope to get there at some point in some way. The problem here being that I come from this saying, fundamental science should be funded 1,000%. This needs to be done. But I'm finding myself sitting in the position where I have to say, this is great, but it's too fundamental.
Mm.
There's other paths for you to take with this kind of research up until you get to the point where you think, hold on, there's an application for this, and then you talk to the legal experts and the people connecting you to companies and trying to find a way to actually put it into the world. Because as much as we really want everybody who's working on research to be able to get to the point to see their babies in the world, because that is really what science, I think, should be about. But there's not 1,000 of us, and we don't have billions of dollars to give. So
yet.
Yeah, we stagger for now until we get VC funding enough to do a Scrooge McDuck dive into a pool of money, and then
and that's it. And by making the right decisions now, and by focusing those concerns now, I think if you can then prove these things to be useful, then it's just going to be that much easier to get the funding for stuff later.
That's actually the goal. Yeah. So this is a really young institution, and like I said, it's like less than 15 years old, and it's performing incredibly well on the markers of publications, like citation counts per person, per employee, per researcher are absolutely insane.
Wow.
They're kind of working to develop right now very intensely this IP portfolio, so that you can actually go back and get some money back into the institution, so these wonderful things can be developed further. So for me, this is the downside of really having to say, not yet, this isn't ready yet. Can you go back to the lab, talk to us, we'll help you figure things out. Let's get some more data. Let's try to figure out how this would actually work, and then let's try again. This is the sad part for me, because it's not what you want to do. You want to you don't want to kill anybody's dreams, and they're my dreams too. I want to see these things, but
you're saying that even if they don't get the funding, they can still get. You could still help them with connections.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
Well, that's great.
But it's a sad thing, I think. I wish we had money for everyone.
Oh God! Well,
and everybody was happy. We were all holding hands in a field of flowers.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure it'll happen. What is the mandate of OIST? What is does it have like a specific mandate, or are there multiple? Like what's its
multiple?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not a PR person for OIST, so I might mess this up. But there's several pillars. There's a focus on fundamental research, education, because they are bringing up new PhD graduates, and also innovation. So the combination of this is really what you're hoping to get, I think, in a modern research institution that is trying to be self-sustainable. So of course, OIST is like a private-public partnership kind of institution. There's a lot of funding that comes in from the Japanese government and from the Okinawan government as well. But the goal for the future is to have this institution be able to sustain itself. And in modern times, the way to do that is not by only finding rich donors to throw money at you, but to actually prove that the work that you're doing has a reason and has a place in the world. And the way that this is in the cough world of capitalism done is by having IP, having licenses, having some sort of sponsorship relationships with companies and so on. So there's a lot of very complex pathways in financially making sure that research happens.
Right.
And the more you want to grow and the more you want to provide resources for researchers to do what they do best and try to change the world, the more money you need.
Right.
And it's just the sad reality of things. And it doesn't grow on trees, and not everybody's gonna see the reason why somebody needs to sit in their office and write integrals for 2 years until they come up with the critical algorithm to change quantum computing.
That's the frustration, I think, is it's that line of how do you find, because some of this stuff is so esoteric, you go, what, we're paying someone to write math equations? Yeah, that leads to, an atomic bomb or nuclear energy or AI.
Well, you picked a great first example there right off the bat.
Terrible example. This is why I am not. This is why I'm not.
Techno-optimist, we say yes.
But I mean, but just the idea that this theoretical stuff leads to practical, and there's at some point it's always got to be theoretical, right? I mean, there's got to be,
Yeah, but it's not only that. You also have things like there's a wonderful project that I think is really lovely at OIST, where it's part of our proof of concept program, where they are. You might think, oh, this is so flimsy and silly, but it has this potential to change an industry, where they are finding ways to efficiently sequence shrimp DNA data. To identify how to make shrimp aquaculture thrive. And this is, I would, from my perspective, I would be like, what kind of science is this? But then you think about it and you wait, no, this is science. This is developing a particular method that has a really strong, really clear application, and that could really make a huge difference in this. And it's, we're talking, this is shrimp, but it could be expanded to something else. Or,
it's a better example than my nuclear war thing, I think.
I think it might be.
Generally, I think this is why you have the job there and I don't.
Oof. I'll take that, because honestly, I like the job. I'm keeping it.
Yeah, of course. And what about the future? How long is this? This is full time now? This is a limited contract. What's the where are you?
It's one of like I said, these academic things where they have you switch your contract and switch continents every 2 to 3 years. It's not exactly like that for this. The contracts are like limited a few years at a time, but they're usually extended, because I'm not a researcher and I don't have to, travel to wherever to do another postdoc.
Right.
But for now, I'm hoping to find myself in a position where I actually get to be there with a particular research project and kind of take it from, hey, we figured this out in a lab, we're not really sure what to do with it, to, hey, this is a real thing, and our research led to a change and led to an advancement of some flavor, whether it's incremental or it's some grand innovation. It's just, and some people have this feeling, and I've heard this actually from my team, that they tried finding people for this position that I have, who were coming from research and who were so passionate about their research.
Right.
And they could not feel the same passion toward other people's research, because it was their babies, and this. For me, it's the other way around. I can love a particular piece of research that I work on. I can appreciate its ingenuity and its art and its novelty and everything, but I just find I love seeing people succeed and do wonderful things, and being there to maybe not even guide them, but facilitate it, help them get the resources, get them everything they need. Because at the end of the day, the way I think about this is science and researchers, every single person who is working as a researcher, they are incredible people who are so deep into this one so minuscule field of human thought. Nobody can compare to them. They're the only person who can make progress in this field. And the fact that I don't have to be an expert to help them take those steps, and that I can go, like a little butterfly from one beautiful flower to the other and enjoy the fruits of their labor. So selfish, but I'm really into it.
How many projects would you be sort of shepherding through these things? Like how many at one time? How many would you get? Would you be?
So I've just started, but right now I got 5 or 6, which is nice.
Wow.
So they're kind of trying to offload everything that has to do with physics and mathematics and engineering and computer science to me, which no complaints. Yeah. I have an easier time with that than with cardiomyocytes.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't even know what a cardiomyocyte is. It's something to do with cardio? Yeah.
Yeah. Like we have some really wonderful projects in life science and in medicine. There's lots of projects that work at OIST that are focused on mitigating the effects of Alzheimer's disease. We have a lot of research on cephalopods, for
Oh yeah.
example,
Oh, I love my
which,
cephalopods. Oh, I love
yeah,
them. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I have like I cannot disclose the kind of project I'm going to be
Oh,
hearing about in 2 days, but I'm so excited about it.
oh. I swam with a, well, I should say an octopus swam with me
Oh,
when I was in Australia, and for probably about an hour or so, I had a little snorkel, and mask, and he would approach me or it would approach me, and then if I'd go wow, and I'd get closer and it would go red, and it would, and I'd go okay, and I'd back
you
off, and we did this back and forth for a good hour, and then eventually it decided to take off, so I thought I'll let it go, but yeah, there were three little fish floating there, and then I approached, and the two fish took off, and the other one turned into an octopus. It was I couldn't get over it. That was how.
wait,
Yeah, it was
camouflage.
disguised. It was disguised as one of the fish, and I
That's
just
so
couldn't.
cool.
And I cannot eat octopus anymore now because
Mm.
it was like it
Magic.
had more personality than my freaking dog does. Like it was, my dog just wants food and a walk. Like yeah, that's amazing. Oh wow, okay, I'm so jealous. Okay, so you got cephalopod stuff coming up. Um,
There,
but
we already have a couple of projects, but that's what I'm excited about.
well, and
Ask
that's
me in 3 months
I
when I
will.
can
Oh, I
tell you.
will. Oh, believe me. No, no. You are being dragged into the Hewlett. I'm with Genius Circus at this point. We'll have to get
Nice.
regular updates. That is. Oh my God. That's fantastic. And how do people find out about what's going on? How do they get involved? Or is there anything? What can people do? What helps OIST out?
What helps?
OIST and the oysters out. You know.
Tragic. What helps? If you have a ton of money, let us know. If
Okay.
you have a ton of money and want to do some research,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's almost 100 different research units at OIST,
Hmm.
and there is like I hate saying this, but sometimes it's really difficult to find people who can just up and go and start a job on a particular project that is a year or two long.
Hmm.
So, for example, we have this wonderful project that's starting, I think, in a couple of months, where a researcher has decided to. So, Okinawa is that has a lot of wild areas,
Yeah.
and it's a very delicate ecosystem. It's a small island. There are invasive frog species here, and the project is going to revolve around them developing an AI-backed system to analyze sounds collected by various devices set up, edge AI devices set up around the island, to identify whether the various croaks that are happening around the forest belong to invasive species or not.
Oh.
And now, on the spot, they also need to hire somebody who is an expert in developing these kinds of algorithms.
Oh wow.
And one of the things that we struggle with is actually, okay, we need somebody to start working on this remote island, which is beautiful and it's such an experience to live in.
Hmm.
But it's also in the middle of nowhere, and it would be a year-long contract, and then you're not sure if it continues because that's the nature of science. So if there's people who are interested in potentially working at OIST and supporting one of these projects, I would 1,000% recommend it because it's such a unique experience and you really get to contribute to something
I just think
worthwhile.
one of my good friends here works in studying basically the audio qualities of crickets. So how the
Mm.
how parasites to crickets can figure out where they are, given that the sounds they're making are larger than their receptors,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
he does a lot of work with the auditory side of stuff. I should ask him because maybe he's got some, or at least tell his students that there's. I mean, I'm not sure he's not going to want to pick up and leave, but I'm
Yeah,
sure.
no, I expect not,
But he
but
might have
yeah, I
students that would have that. That's fascinating. I mean, oh
we
God.
just got the job ad out today, so I'm more than happy to send you the link.
Ah, that's yeah. Please do because I'll send it to him
Mhm.
because he
Me
of
too.
anyone would know this stuff more than I would. Yeah, they're at University of Toronto. He's one of the professors I'm working with on escape puzzle learning. So we're doing biology.
Escape puzzle.
Yes, we do biology
Really?
escape. Well, we have the fourth year students, biology
Mhm.
students, create escape room puzzles, basically just puzzles that
Mhm, mhm.
that help kids in high school learn biology, and then the kids have to make their own as well. The idea is that it's not just about solving puzzles. The learning and the practical use of their knowledge is what builds these puzzles. So it's
Oh,
just a
that
new
sounds like
approach
fun.
to learn. It was a silly idea that I had, and for some reason these wonderful biology friends of mine who are professors, they've sort of run with it, and the kids seem to really like it, which is, I'm not surprised. It's just fun, but
That's
but
awesome.
yeah. So he's one of the guys.
I want to see that. That's if it's publicly available. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're gonna have to publish something at some point. I know I'll have to ask her about it because I did a really fun little interview with some of the students who did the first round of it, and it
Mm.
was I was like, I didn't even tell them to say that. They're saying all the right stuff.
Aw.
But anyways, sorry, that long-winded way of saying
Okay.
his specialty is in basically identifying different types of crickets
Mm.
and predators for those crickets. So he would definitely know people who would be into that stuff. So
Nice.
yeah, okay, great. So you're gonna send me that link. So we
I
just got
am.
someone a job. We don't know, somewhere out there's someone with a job. Someone is gonna be the best friend of frogs. You know.
Well, not necessarily on that because so really two ways of getting involved. One is throw money in our direction.
Yep.
We'll
Yeah.
find a way to use it.
Right.
Will talk to us. We'll figure
Ah,
it out.
okay. We
Um,
can always spend it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
on very cool things. Adopt a researcher. We can
Yeah.
figure it out.
Oh, that's
And
good.
the
That's
other
a great
thing,
idea, actually. Adopt a researcher. Yeah, adopt a
God,
researcher. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna come up with that and they're gonna kick me out of my job.
Hmm.
But I think I agree. It's a great idea. And
The
the
job
other
was
way
going
is
great until I'm with Stargate TV, and then it all
until
fell apart.
until
Yeah.
Ivana started having creative ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second part is really because we have all these not random, but the projects that are coming up that we are in this kind of proof of concept framework that we're
Mm,
trying to go from lab to wherever. Usually they need a technician. They need somebody who can do a particular technique or
yeah.
method in the lab or develop an algorithm or something like this.
Mm,
And you get the opportunity to learn about a really cool field of science, live in a really unique place for a
mm,
little while, and be part of an institution that I think is, excuse my language, but kind of iconic.
yeah.
It's got a future, I think.
That's
So
fantastic. And I guess this is part of being a new organization like this is letting people know about it. I
mm,
mean, I guess that's a
yeah.
big part of it. What are there?
Mhm.
I apologize because I haven't sort of drilled down into the website. But are there a
Never
lot of
apologize for that.
are there publications available on the site as well? I mean, is there some? I'm assuming one of the
Absolutely.
seasons. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so for example, some of the projects, these proof of concept projects that our team supports, we have every one of them on our website listed with a little one-page flyer where you can learn all about what the project is like, what
Oh,
it's
great.
doing, and find links to their publications,
All right. I can
which
make
I
sure
think
to
is really sweet. Yeah,
I will link to that as well then. And when I do
for
my
sure.
homework, more homework.
Uh,
The problem is there's just so much stuff. There's so many things you can drill down into, isn't there? I mean,
yeah.
especially with you and your darn quantum mechanics and then this and it's just you're just doing so much. Thank you so much for this. Is there any way people? I mean, do you want people to say hello to you? Do you prefer not
Oh,
to? Is there?
by all means, say hello to me. So I kind of am emerging from the hiatus of moving continents and finishing a master's degree
Right,
into social media again.
right.
But I'm definitely happy to chat about whatever. Have a Fediverse Mastodon account, and I
Oh
can
yeah.
send you the link to that if
So
anybody
you're
wants to chat about anything.
are you still on the Fediverse? I found it
What
far
do you
too
mean
complicated.
still?
Well, it was far too complicated for me, I found. I ended up going, look, frankly I'm sort of done with the social media stuff other than to just sort of use it as a
Hmm.
almost like a promotional thing at this point. But the Blue Sky, I've been in, a number
Mm,
of people have said I should be spending more time on Blue Sky, but my
yeah.
problem is who's got the
Mm,
time?
ex-
I just get newsletters and read those now because frankly I'm less distracted by sudden unnecessary, you know, pop-ups and things.
Yeah, I'm also terrible about this. I usually use social media. This is so pathetic, but I just use social media to text directly with people
Well,
because
that was Twitter for me. For the longest time, that was how I met all my science folks. Was just I would
Hmm.
someone would get in touch and say, oh, I do that, and I'll go, oh, great, and DM, and it's fantastic for that. But now I've just found, again, I think I made the mistake of taking interest in some of the crypto stuff at the beginning, and now I can't even wade through all of the various different ads. All right, fantastic. All right,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
so I'll get your link. I'll get if you don't
Yeah,
mind,
yeah, yeah.
give me whatever links you want, and
Sure.
I'll
Yeah,
throw them in
I'll
the
shower you with links. Yeah.
I'll throw them in the description. And that job posting, I honestly, I'll get
Nonsense.
it to
Yeah.
Andrew, because I think yeah, he's a fascinating guy. In fact, I'll send you a link to him, because he's a him and his wife are this wonderful couple. He specializes in crickets. She
Uh-huh.
specializes in basically black widow spiders. Like they're this wonderful couple.
Oh,
Oh my God. She has the largest collection of black widow spiders, I think it's like in the world, or certainly in North America. And
I would not be able to be friends with them
oh
just
my
because of the
God.
fear of.
See, I thought that too, but then we brought a bunch of them to an elementary school to show them how we could listen to them with lasers. And they're
Sick and
beautiful.
twisted, but yeah.
Yeah, I know it is a bit, isn't it? Now I think about it, it feels like I see why I didn't ask
No,
her.
no, it's amazing. I'm terrified of spiders, and listening
Mhm.
to you saying all these things just.
It was funny because I too, I think I would consider myself pretty arachnophobic. It's I don't know what it is, but it's a certain type that bothers me. But the black widow spiders are so ridiculously cool. They're almost robotic. Like they're so they're almost like made out of metal. Like they're like this beautiful
Ah, yeah, yeah,
black
yeah.
color with these little red, and they're just I don't know. I find things like the huntsman, the big hairy ones, a lot scarier myself. But yeah.
I need to at some point, tell you about our Lord and Savior beetles because
Oh,
shiny, colorful beetles
oh
are my
yeah.
favorite animal in the world.
Oh, we had some beautiful ones in LA.
Yeah.
Beautiful ones. Yeah. I don't know what they were, but they were in the compost in the yard waste. They were these beautiful. They just looked. Yeah, they were
And
like
like
jewels.
shiny, like
Yeah.
fluorescent kind of color. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Living in, by the way, in a tiny city apartment and not being allowed to have pets, you can still have small animals. That includes beetles,
You
colorful.
got beetles?
When I
You
say
got.
little, not here, but I had them in Germany,
All right.
like this size, giant flower
Oh.
beetles, and
Oh
they
wow.
and they come, they breed and they come in all kinds of colors,
Hmm.
like from blue, reds, green, brown. Oh my God,
Really? Oh
and
wow.
they're
I'll have to.
shiny and pretty,
Oh, I got to look
and
into that.
they don't pose any threat for your life, which is a plus.
It's a good plus. Yeah. Yeah. We have a gecko, which I love.
Oh,
I never thought I would say this, but they have personalities. They are just the most I find them absolutely adorable.
what's his name?
It's well, Casper is his original name, but
Casper.
I like to call him Lemmy, because he's less white and more yellow to me. So yeah, I thought Lemmy would fit. Yeah, but so he gets
Nice.
the poor thing goes through multiple names. He doesn't know, But yeah, absolutely but Beatles as well.
Oh.
I think that's yeah. I mean, there's God, there's just so many things to be interested in, isn't there? What kind of flora and fauna around you? Do you have any interesting, and I mean, Japan, do they have different? They've got some
There's
interesting.
all kinds of funky stuff here, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
I was freaked out a few weeks ago when I saw this cat-sized thing fly across the sky and then land upside down on one of the wires and
Was a
just
bat
flip
of some
over.
sort?
Of this size,
Well, like a fruit bat?
massive bat.
Fruit bat
Yeah,
or?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh,
humongous
I
bat.
also love
So
them too. I gotta say, I'm a big bat fan. Yeah.
but it was the middle of the night, and it's like I see this gigantic thing flying
Oh
through
my
the sky.
God.
What
No,
the
that's not when
hell
you
is?
want to see them. Yeah.
No,
And
no,
they,
it was fantastic. It was just very, I grew up in Europe. I have not seen these
yeah,
things before.
yeah.
This is amazing.
I'm still absolutely taken with the possums and the raccoons and all the various
Oh,
things that wander around here. I'm amazed. We sometimes get foxes and deer, but we're in downtown Toronto. There just happens to be a big strip of land, like a big
that's
park at
cool.
the end of the street. So
Yeah.
things just wander up. It's extraordinary. Anyway, so I'm so sorry. It's late for you. I've kept you far too long. I
And
am gonna
you,
make.
it was really lovely chatting with
Oh
you.
no, this is fantastic. This is great. This is great. Now I go walk the dog, and I get to think about it all. We have to do this live at some point because I know for a fact. Well, first off, you're fantastic. And I think people will
Oh.
absolutely love the chat. And I think what's nice, I'll post this, and then maybe
Hmm.
if you're up for it sometime, we'll do like a follow up, and we could just answer some questions. Maybe do like a catch up,
Sure.
and then answer some questions that people might have. Right.
Whatever you feel is right. I think
Um,
your vibes about this are probably correct.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, and congratulations. I'm so
Mm.
it's so wonderful to see someone happy doing what they love and being able to to share that with everyone. It's just fantastic. It's fantastic. I
That
can't wait to do more
really means
research.
a lot.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, and there's never enough time for it.
no, it's true. It's true.
100% hands down.
Uh,
But yeah,
Thank you
thank you for
so
chatting.
much. Yeah, pleasure, a
Yeah.
pleasure. All right, so we'll definitely be in touch. I'll let you know as soon as it's up. I'll send you a
Mhm.
link. I don't think there's much to really. I don't think we really need to. Unless there's anything particular you want to edit. Is there anything you want to lose? Are you worried about?
No, no, I want to grab those a couple of links to send to you. I
Great.
think they might actually be valuable.
Yeah, great, fantastic. All right, you're the best. Thank you
Uh,
so much. Yeah,
Have a great
yeah.
day. I'm
Thank.
so happy that we finally got to talk like at
I
length about random
Yes,
stuff. It was
yeah, and I
fun.
could still. I feel like I could still do hours more, but I know it's late.
Let's
Um,
not
yeah.
today.
Oh, and I should wrap up. I forgot my little wrap up. So normally I would
Oh,
say, thank you for joining us, and until we geek again, I will say, be brave, be kind, be brilliant, cheerio, and huzzah, which is the name of my dog.